Now, the United Kingdom has announced the first 7 charter flights from South Africa to bring British travellers back home. The first flight will depart from Cape Town on Thursday, the 9th of April, with further flights to follow from Cape Town and Johannesburg. Now, these flights are for the British travellers who are currently on holiday in South Africa or who are short-term visitors. To speak to us a little bit more about this, now we're joined on the line by British High Commissioner to South Africa, Nigel Casey. Your Excellency, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Just how many British citizens are you looking to have on these flights to go back home?
Thanks, Peter. Well, we believe that when the lockdown took effect and international flights were banned, there were some thousands of British travellers who had been unable to get home at that point. And many of them have been in direct contact with us since then, keen to get home. This is why we've embarked on this program of special charter flights to fill the gap between the lockdown starting and the resumption, we hope, of normal regular flights at some point in the future. So we've arranged 7 flights initially, 4 from Cape Town, 3 from Johannesburg. We started selling tickets last night online. There's been strong demand. The first 2 of those 7 flights have sold out already, and the others are busy filling up. So I would encourage anybody listening, if they haven't already done so, to get online and book themselves a ticket.
All right, so High Commissioner, who's prioritised? Is it anyone with a British passport or perhaps someone who's got residency in the UK that can get on these flights?
So they're for British nationals and their direct dependents who are normally resident in the UK. We obviously have a very large number of British nationals, dual nationals, who are normally resident in South Africa, and our advice to them is to stay in South Africa and follow government guidelines. But for tourists, other short-term business visitors, our advice has been to go home, and that's the group that we're looking to help with this scheme.
All right, so tourists in neighbouring countries like Eswatini and Lesotho, are they being helped in this plan as well?
We're looking at that. It's not easy. There are, we believe, a small number, we're talking single digits in the case of countries like Lesotho and Eswatini, of Brits who have been left stranded there who would like to get home. And we're trying to figure out how to make that possible in the absence of any connecting flights from Maseru and Mbane and other regional capitals into Johannesburg, which would normally be the route home. They also would require a visa to cross the border into South Africa. So it's not straightforward, but we are looking at that urgently.
So what prerequisites must be followed before someone can get on the plane? I wonder if screening, testing, temperature taking, all those kinds of things, if you're not well, can you get on the plane?
No, if you are suffering from COVID symptoms, you'll be asked questions when you go online to make your booking, and there will be a further screening at the point of assembly prior to going to the airport to catch these flights. That's the procedure which has been set up by the South African government, and so there'll be some screening at that point. If people are exhibiting symptoms or if they've had a positive COVID diagnosis, they won't be allowed to get on these flights, obviously, because they will be a risk to all the other passengers.
And then what happens to them when they land in the UK? A quarantine period?
No, well, as you know, we like South Africa, are in a national stay-at-home period, so everybody is being encouraged to stay at home, work from home, practice social distancing. There's no formal quarantine requirement, and as you know, South Africa thankfully is suffering from a lower rate of infections at the moment than the UK. So you will be encouraged to make your way home and follow the guidelines which is given to every other Brit in the UK at the moment.
All right. How is your Prime Minister at this time?
Well, he spent last night in hospital. He was taken there as a precaution, as you will have read. And he had a diagnosis a number of days ago. So we're all wishing him a speedy recovery.
And how's the situation generally in terms of flattening the curve and trying to slow down infection in the UK?
We have been in a lockdown, a stay-at-home period for just a few days longer than South Africa, and there have been some encouraging signs in recent days of a slight diminution in the in the number of fatalities, or the rise, I should say. So we're not being complacent. I mean, I think it's clear that the worst is still ahead of us, and people have been people have been very clear about that, and it's a grim prospect for everybody. But we hope that these distancing measures will have an effect over time, and that gradually infection rates and the loss of lives will diminish.
I know that the countries are working together, the UK and South Africa. I'm just wondering about South Africans that are in the UK and perhaps visas are expiring and are trying to get home. Is there some kind of cooperation to help these people with a way forward?
There is, yes. I mean, we have made the offer to use these flights to get South Africans stranded in the UK home, and we're talking to DIRCO and to others who've been contacted by those people stuck in the UK to try and figure out a way of doing that. So that's on our to-do list for the coming days.
All right. At this stage, when is the last flight out?
If the schedule which we planned all goes to plan, and it does depend on our getting clearances for each individual flight, the last of this current plan of flights will be on the 14th of April. I think we're testing demand through these flights. If there is very strong demand and it's clear that there are many more people who still want to get home at the end of that period, then we will review whether it's possible to lay on further flights.
All right, so British nationals, what must they do to get on these flights? Get onto your website and register? What happens?
So we've advertised widely last night through our social media, our travel advice, the web portal that you need to go through to start the booking process. So if you look at our social media, UK and South Africa, either on Facebook or Twitter, or our travel advice at gulf.uk, you will find a link. And if you follow that link, the process will be clear from there. So that's what I encourage anyone who's interested to do now.
All right, High Commissioner, thanks very much indeed for that update. That's Britain's High Commissioner to South Africa, Nigel Casey, speaking to us about these special charter flights that have been arranged for the country's nationals to return to the United Kingdom in the next couple of weeks. All right, that's where we're going to leave our first look at some of our top stories right here on the SABC News Channel. You're watching SA Today. We'll be back with more after this.